Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Have my Spider-Man stoneware mug. So today's video is going to be a book review on We Could Be Villains by Megan McLeod. This was in my September reading wrap-up, so there's a little bit of my thoughts in it, but I'm gonna try to go into my thoughts a little bit deeper today to talk about this book. Spoiler alert, I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, I believe. This is book one in the Vigil and Auntie series. And she did say that there's going to be a book two. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series, but I know that since she is kind of self-publishing these, and I'm sure working full-time also, the writing is a little bit slow going, as in she's not producing them super quickly, but I believe this debuted last year? Yes, so this debuted in 2022, and I think it was like fall 2022. And the moment I heard about it, I knew it was something that I really wanted to read. It is inspired by like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So kind of the way she paints the picture is if the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with its fan base, with its huge following, with the so many movies and all the like things that tie in, and this person gets their own movie and this person is a great villain that everybody loves, like all of that. What if it was all real, but they were just using the movies as cover up? So you didn't read into it, you didn't know it was real, you thought it was all fake. But in reality, they all have those superhuman abilities. They're actually fighting these threats, but they're covering it up like a publicity stunt and like it's just a movie and not real. Which is kind of creepy to think that the government would, cover that up, but it's also a really interesting premise for the story. But along with that, one of the big villains in the movies, Ironfall, ends up finding this fangirl character who's just like a normal everyday girl named Rosemary, and he finds her and starts blackmailing her, saying that if she doesn't help him take over the world, he's going to kill her family. And so she's like, what do? I have to help him. And then she kind of gets roped into all of this stuff. Right off the bat, that sounded like an amazing premise and something that I would absolutely love. I love superhero things, superheroes, supervillains, villains in general. I think that genre is really fun. I loved Vicious. I love the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer. And I think if you like Marvel and you just like superhero fan base or just the superhero comic book kind of nature, you would like this book. Something that's kind of interesting about this is that while Rosemary is a normal everyday person, like working at, I don't know, she's working at like some sort of fast food chain or some sort of food chain, she is being threatened by this villain. But at first, no one believes her, or she doesn't realize that all of this is real. So you're kind of following her story as she thinks that this person is following her, and she's like, the only person that has these very distinct eyes is this villain in this movie. And I think I would be able to tell if it was cosplay contacts, and like she's kind of sitting there thinking like, am I going crazy? Like, what's happening? She kind of starts poking around, asking questions, and it's like getting shut down, or her Wi-Fi starts failing and she starts thinking maybe she's stumbling into something she shouldn't be. And then the Vigil, which is like the good guys Marvel universe, like S.H.I.E.L.D., and then Auntie is like the villains thing. So Vigil kind of starts contacting her to be like, stop poking around. And then they kind of recruit her because they realize that this villain is following her and blackmailing her, and they're like, how about you go undercover for us, continue to do what he's telling you to do, and then report back to us so that we can stop him. But her life is on the line and her family's life is on the line, and she's like caught in the middle. And it brings a lot of tension because she doesn't want to hurt anyone. She doesn't want to be a villain, but she also doesn't want to blow her cover and wants to help this superhero government agency succeed. But they're also not stepping in, and she doesn't know why. And they're like, they won't let us arrest him. They think we need to follow this through, etc. And it delves into a lot of more things with like the CIA, and maybe some of the CIA are corrupt and maybe some of them are on their side, but who's who, you don't know. So there's a lot of like espionage and a lot of, you don't really know who's on whose side. And so it can feel a lot of tension. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what's going to happen. The villain kind of makes it clear that he is willing to kill people, and I thought maybe that wouldn't be the case, but it is. Like, he was willing to hurt people that got in the way. And I really liked this book. I think the characters, I think you can grow to like the characters. I think it's easy to fall for the villain character. It's kind of easy for her to paint these pictures of these other characters in the superhero organization Vigil. And I think you can also see some of the inspiration from the Marvel universe. Like, it's not copy and paste by any means, but I think you can see like she's trying to paint this character as this type of a person, like Nick Fury or something. You can tell she's trying to give you a little bit of hints of that, or just making her own, but you can just see how you would be able to compare it to the Marvel universe. And I really like what she did, and I feel like it's absolutely something a fangirl would write, and that's a compliment, not a diss. Like, I would love to have come up with this idea and written this book. It was really, really fun. I would say, like, the couple of critiques I have, which I did mention also in my reading wrap-up, would be, like, some of the plot felt like the changes that happened with some of the characters or the resolutions that happened seemed to happen too fast, like too soon, too easily. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I feel like for this first book, you can make it a million pages that drudge on and give like more of that background detail, or you can decide to cut them out and to make things shorter to push the story along. And I'm sure those decisions are really hard to make. Like, there's a couple of times where it cuts like a time where she's like, this is starting, and then it cuts to 3 months ahead to where the play is happening or whatever. And you skip all of the like in between stuff that's not vital, but maybe could have had some character development or character interactions and interpersonal relationships deepening. But is it necessary for the story? Probably not. So you could tell where the author had to make those decisions, and she had to cut some of those things out or speed some of those things up. And I don't think that was a bad thing. And I just sometimes thought maybe there should have been more depth. Like, it's 345 pages, so it's not like a super short book. It's a pretty average sized book. And I'm sure she didn't want it to drudge on forever, and she was writing a second book, but she still had to kind of wrap up the plot that she had started. So there's some of those things that feel a little bit fast or a little bit odd. I will say the way kind of one of the things happened with the villain character, the way that story arc went, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I see why the author did it. And I'm not saying it was a bad move. I just think, like, for my taste and what I would prefer it didn't go that way. But that doesn't make it a good or bad story. It just means that that's not my preference, but that might be your preference. So I didn't love the way that swung and the way that went. And the way that it's going from here seems a little bit, I'm not really sure where the story goes from here, you know? It sounds like it's going to be starting a new arc. But overall, I thought it was really good. I think it's easy to, I think I mentioned this, but it's easy to fall in love with the characters. It's easy to picture the different personalities of the characters. One of the characters was really annoying, but he's got like a little bit of endearing quality, and I think that's exactly what the author was going for. So I think she did that well. There's some times where I'm reading Rosemary and I'm like, girl is so annoying or naive or something, but would a normal person react that way in this situation? Like a normal everyday girl getting pulled into these like secret government organizations and teaming up with the villain, and all these lives are in her hands and she's breaking the law and like doing this stuff. Like, you might react like that. It's not necessarily what a fantasy character would do, but that might be what a real person would do. So I think that was a little bit of the tension I was feeling. And again, not a bad thing, but different. I will say that one of the twists I kind of guessed from the beginning, or at least when you know there's something to be guessed, because at the very beginning you have no idea what the story's going to be. But I think once it became evident that there was a piece of the puzzle that was missing, I could figure that out pretty quickly. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a little bit of a critique, but it's not like a negative thing. I always struggle with, like, how do you write to where you're hinting at something, but it's not obvious? And I'm not sure how to do that, because I can figure things out really quickly, whereas other people maybe don't from those little hints. And I feel like unless you pull like a Sarah J. Maas where you don't say anything about it the whole book and then it's just unveiled, it's kind of hard to have those super high level twists or unveilings. I don't think the author did it poorly. I think for this being her first book, she wrote very well. There's a little bit of like cheesy banter and stuff, but I feel like that's the real world. And also it's very superhero culture to have some cheesy lines. So I wasn't mad about it. I really liked that this everyday girl, is teaming up with the villain and struggles to not have a soft spot for him, not to fall for him. I feel like that's very relatable, but also being like, he's a villain, he's a horrible person. I really liked that. I thought she did it really well. This is a YA book. It's not spicy. There's maybe like a little bit of romance, but it's not much. And I really like that balance. I like it when things are just kind of a maybe slow burn, maybe forbidden love, but maybe they don't even get together ever. I really like that, and I like that it's just like a hint and not just like a spicy romance novel. That being said, because sometimes I want this, and most of the time I want this, but sometimes I like spice. That being said, if somebody wrote a very similar story to this, except it was like a dark romance, I say dark lightly, a darker fantasy romance, if somebody wrote that and it was basically this exact thing, like this plot with the morally gray villain, supervillain that kind of falls for the human girl or whatever, if somebody wrote that, I would read it. So if you're out there and you're thinking, what should I write? That, I would love it. I would love it for different reasons, but I would love it. Yeah. But anyway, so as for this being her first book, I thought it was really good, really fun, a really wild ride. I think it's definitely probably underhyped because she's not a traditional published book, but I think if you enjoy those tropes at all, you enjoy kind of the cheesy banter, you enjoy like a little bit of kind of found family elements, but also maybe you're a theater kid or something, I think you would really like this book. I say that because of something in the book. I really had a fun time with this. I thought it was really fun, really sweet, really endearing. There's parts of tension that are really stressful. There's a lot of government stuff that's scary, like just undercover government things. I'm very curious to see what else she writes and what else she comes out with, because I will read it. I thought it was a great first book and very excited to see where this author goes. But yeah, those are just kind of my rambly thoughts about this. I loved Ironfall, the villain character, a lot. He was a great character, even though his character went a different way than I thought it would. Yeah, it was really good. I'm just gonna sit here gushing about it. So I think if you like superhero, supervillain books, if you like a little bit of the falling for the villain a little bit kind of, I think you would like this book. I think if you enjoy the Marvel Universe, you should read this book just because I think it'd be fun for you. But yeah, absolutely check this out if it sounds good to you. I loved it. I will continue to read and excited to see where this series goes. I think I said, but I gave it 4.5 stars. Well, that is the book review for today. So thank you so much for watching as always, but that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye. My dog now knows that I'm ending a video when I say my outro because he'll go.